Before I begin my review of a completely different Tom Baker story, can I just have a slight rant? I didn't think you'd mind. The Matt Smith box set is due out next month. I've just received my review copies. Disc 1 has an extra feature, an in-vision commentary, perhaps the single most useless extra I've ever heard of. Commentaries, by their nature, should be, well, audio. What's the point of watching the vast toffee, MN, and his mates sitting in a chair for an hour? Yes, you too can watch someone sit down and chat. Or, conversely, they could have just recorded it and let us hear it. Commentaries are pretty thin on the ground on these discs. I'll review it properly later. But first, this.
Blimey. Boise talking to Doctor Who? How often do you see that?
Scanning for audio.
Welcome once again to a Tin Dog podcast. The more eagle-eyed amongst you will have spotted that I've put something else up on the feed. The Terrible Zodin, issue 7. Yes, it is indeed a shameless piece of self-promotion, because on page 102, that's 102 basically, at the back end of the PDF, you can read my article about, well, the way I really didn't want Doctor Who to return back in 2005. It's slightly more upbeat than it sounds, and I hope you enjoy it. Similarly, there are other fanzines which I'm trying to put onto the feed so that we can get them to a wider audience. If you've got a fanzine that you'd like me to put on the feed, drop me a line at the usual address. In other news, I'd like to say that Whostrology is now complete. There is a reading for every single day of the year. Thanks to some of the help I've received after my appeal, I can now categorically say that every single one of my dates is filled. 366 readings, 12 star signs, and almost 50 year-ofs, all taken care of. And remember, if you'd like your own Whostrology reading, follow the link on the website.
What you have done could result in the total destruction of all life on this planet.
What is a crinoid?
I suppose you would call it a galactic weed.
It's as if he's turning into some sort of a hideous monster.
I'm sending you on a little errand, Scorby.
Where is the pod?
Scorby! Scorby! If we don't find that pod before it germinates, it'll be the end of everything. Everything, you understand? Even your pension.
You're full of good ideas, Doctor.
People are replaceable, Scorby. The crinoid is unique.
You want me to die? There is no chance!
Miss Smith will be our subject.
This week I'm talking about Seeds of Doom, released on DVD in England on the 25th of October this year. Seeds of Doom is a 6-part Doctor Who story, so is therefore released as a 2-disc set, the whole of the story itself, complete with commentary, being on the first disc. As 6-part stories go, it's very good. There's a few things worthy of note, and I'll discuss those in a moment, but it does follow the standard 6-part format established in the 70s, i.e., a 2-part story in one location, then the story switches to another location, and we have a 4-part story. Normally, as in Talons Wen Chiang, you have the 4-part, then the 2-part, i.e. the hunt for the Chinaman's cabinet, the hunt for the villain, and then 2 episodes set in the villain's base. Here we have it the other way around. We have the first 2 episodes set in Antarctica, and the last 4 set on a stately estate. This is, of course, broadly speaking, it's not completely accurate, but you get the general feeling. Also, the story does have many links with other TV shows. Again, we'll discuss that in a moment. But what's the story itself about? Reading from the press release gives you a pretty good idea of what the story holds. It's 20th century Earth, and a research team based in the Antarctic unwillingly digs up 2 mysterious pods which have been buried in the snow for 20,000 years. Yet the identity of the pods is no mystery to the Doctor. They are crinoid, a hostile alien species of life. The Doctor's fears are confirmed when one of the pods opens and attacks the scientist. Unfortunately, the Doctor is not the only one interested in the seeds. An insane millionaire, Harrison Chase, great name, is desperate to get his hands on a pod at any cost, even murder. But why? I think you'll find the answer is he's a nutter. That's not in the press release. I'm sorry. Back to the reading. As the remaining pod hurtles to England, splitting open to reveal the ferocious crinoid carnivore, can the Doctor arrest its development? As its strength grows, every moment, it threatens to turn Earth's vegetation hostile too. Its germination could jeopardize the security of mankind itself.
This is K9. You are listening to Tin Dog Podcast. Please do not switch off.
Yeah, basically, some pods are dug up in the Antarctic in a storyline very, very reminiscent of the 1950s film The Thing from Another World, and then when the story shifts to England, you have a storyline very, very similar to the first Quatermass story. Also, there are similarities with Day of the Triffids, but that's more in the case of there's vegetables who want to eat people. That's kind of it. And also, of course, similarities to the movie where the seeds themselves come from space, which isn't the case in the novel or the BBC adaptations. And of course, the BBC adaptations came later. Again, as I was talking about The Thing from Another World, that was remade as The Thing. But The Thing, which came later, again, doesn't have a vegetable-based life form. Here, in the original 50s version, it is. I'm sure one of the lines is, it's a vampire carrot from outer space. Or perhaps I just dreamed that while very drunk and talking about films. The important thing in this story for me, apart from the fact that it was written by one of my favourite Doctor Who writers, Robin Banks-Stewart, the man responsible for Terror of the Zygons, is that it doesn't really feel like a Doctor Who story. On paper, if you were to read the whole thing, it feels a lot more like an Avengers episode. Mainly because the characterisation of the Doctor himself is a lot more, well, physical. He's violent. He carries a gun at some point. He's leaping through buildings, through windows and all sorts. It's filmed remarkably well, but it has the feel more of an Avengers episode. He even calls Sarah Jane Smith Miss Smith, almost unheard of. No, I'm saying these things as if they're bad. Let's face it, Doctor Who has borrowed from other sources time and time and time again, and always will. And I don't mind that, because if you borrow from enough sources, your new story becomes new itself. But Harrison Chase could be stepping straight from a Bond film, or more likely an Avengers episode. I have no real issue. My favourite Avengers girl, after all, is Tara King. And in fact, I may just watch a few episodes later on. So despite its failings, it's a pretty good story. It's fairly well thought out. It bombs along, and a lot of things have been made of how the ending is a little bit, well, if the Doctor hadn't bothered turning up, it still would have ended the same way. The do-nothing approach is not the most popular of Doctor Who endings. So yes, it's got some superb Tom Baker moments, well worth going into. But for most people, when they're watching it, the thing that stands out the most is one of the villains, a secondary character whose character development stands out above most secondary Doctor Who characters and develops much further than just mindless thug. Yes, it's Boise from Only Fools and Horses, putting in an absolutely superb performance, proving that he isn't just a light comedian. But what of the fabled second disc? Well, of course, after the first disc is watched, which has, of course, all 6 episodes, and the commentary with Tom Baker, John Callis, that's Boise, Kenneth Gilbert, Michael McSay, Philip Hinchcliffe, Robert Banks-Stewart, the replacement designer, Robert Murray Leach, and, weirdly, Jogs Camfield, who is the son of the director. Now, I'm sure that if you asked me to talk at great length about shipbuilding and being an engineer on the buses, I'd be able to tell you, very, very little, for about, 10 minutes, and that would be it, because I don't have the same job as my dad. So why he's here, I just don't know. And of course, our beloved production subtitles. Disc 2, however, is where the true gems lie. First off, and I'm sure some people in America will be very pleased about this, there's the making of, oddly called Podshock. Yes, there's a Doctor Who DVD extra called Podshock. It's 37 minutes long, covers every aspect, it's pretty good. Some lovely Graham Harper stories on there as well. There's a 9-minute documentary about Now and Then, which they visit the locations. Obviously they don't visit Antarctica on the grounds that was a quarry sprayed white. But then there is a superb little extra. And sadly, I have bad news. Geoffrey Bergen died last week, and this is a documentary dedicated to his work. It's lovely that such a thing was recorded before his death. It's sad that this DVD has come out merely weeks after his demise. So take time out to watch this. There's a very nice extra documentary called What Do You Do Exactly?, which tells us all about, thanks to the gift of Graham Harper's enthusiasm, what production assistant unit managers do. Because these are phrases you hear and see on the bottom of screens all the time, but now we get to see it. There's trials and continuity photo galleries are coming soon for, well, not my favourite story, Revenge of the Talking Cactus, or as it's known by many fans, Meglos.
I knew a man who solved the insoluble by the strangest means. He sees the threads that join the universe together and mends them when they break.
Hello there, I'm Doctor. I'm expecting...
Arrival noted, gentlemen. Welcome.
What are you?
I am Meglos.
I think what we've got here is a good old-fashioned doppelganger.
What you're asking us to do is impossible.
I think you forget who I am.
Where's the doctor?
He's betrayed us. Arrest the Time Lord. Stop him at all costs.
That's the problem with doppelgangers. You never know who's who.
I hope it was all worth it, Meglos. Stop, cut that patience!
We are about to release a power many magnitudes greater than any intelligence has ever controlled. Its potential has scarcely been touched.
There's a couple of PDFs thrown in, which is the Radio Times listing, and Douglas Camfield's paper edit for a compilation version of the story available as a PDF. I wonder how difficult it would have been to use the Angles option on DVD to provide us with that edited version, just so we could see it. So, yes, it's a great little story. It's got the Fourth Doctor stripped for action on it, which for me is when the comic was at its best. You can't beat a nice bit of Dave Gibbons. You just can't. And so with that, I'll bid you farewell and look forward to hearing from you all very soon with entries to this competition, of which I've already had more than 20 entries. Go on, give it a go. Regardless of which country you're in, send me an email with your answer. So until next time, be seeing you.
Urgent subspace communication incoming.
For the first time in its 4-year history, the Tin Dog Podcast is proud to announce a competition. Yes, I'm giving away the new Michael Moorcock book. Not only is it the new Michael Moorcock book, but actually it's signed by the man himself, and all thanks to ForbiddenPlanet.com. The Coming of the Terraphiles is one of the most eagerly anticipated Doctor Who novels for a very long time. For those of you unfamiliar with Michael Moorcock's work, he's a science fiction giant. It just goes to show the sort of credibility that Doctor Who nowadays has. Anyway, enough about that. On with the competition. It's a multiple choice, and I'm sure you'll be able to find the answer on Wikipedia, if you don't know it off the top of your head. The competition is this. Michael Moorcock wrote about what sort of champion. Was it A, an eternal champion, B, an endless champion, or C, an immortal champion? Send your name and address, together with the answer, obviously, to the usual address. That's tin-dog@hotmail.co.uk. The closing date for this competition is the 31st of October 2010, because by then Michael Moorcock will have been to Forbidden Planet in London and signed copies in order to send them to us. And then on to you. You know you want it. It's signed after all. Good luck. You have been listening to the Tin Dog Podcast. Doctor Who and its associated shows are all trademark of the BBC. No infringement is intended. Contact us at tin-dog@hotmail.co.uk.
And now on Dave, we go back to the 1970s with Doctor Who, the ITV years.
TARDIS. Work, why don't you? Call yourself a TARDIS, you're more of a flaming retardist.
Go easy, you'll send us a billion light years away.
That's what I'm trying to do. I want to get as far away as possible from her.
Cool, dear. You're all in, I'll tell you. She's more frightening than the Daleks. Here, where are we going then?
To the planet Raving Nympho, where all the birds love milking.
That gave me the collywobbles. Right, slab and tickle here, I can't.
Blimey, what a dump.
It's a gay day. Where's my handbag?
This ain't the planet Raving Nympho. You've brought us to the planet Woolly Woofter.
What's a gay day?
Get out of it.
What's a gay day?
Come on, Stan, let's go up there.
Yeah, good idea.
Here, hold up. Them Woolly Woofters have captured your arch enemy, the Master.
Thank you, Doctor.
Naughty.
Thank you not to do that very much.
Get a load of that.
We are Earthlings.
I'm not surprised. You've got 3 Earther kits.
Opportunity knockers.
Oh, we'll have you as well.
Watch out, love. That's my sonic screwdriver.